Hello, everybody. I'm back. Thanks for joining me. I want to talk to you a little bit today here. I'm going to be honest with you. It took me a little while to come down here and video this because I was so agitated. I couldn't even see straight. Okay? Now, here's what I want to talk to you about. So, I'll try to make this short, sweet, and to the point. I come home. I hear my child reading in the living room, which is right next to our kitchen. I hear the child reading in the living room. I'm thunderous applause. I know. I'm very happy. I'm proud of her. But as I start listening to the story, I'm listening very closely, and I hear atrocities. Okay, literal atrocities. And here's the book she was reading for reference: George and Martha, Round and Round. Okay. And this is like a 5-story book. It has 5 different stories in it. Copyright date was 1988. Okay, so we do have to give a little bit of grace, but everybody is guilty for their actions and decisions. Whether those decisions were made years and years and decades ago, we are judging them by today's standards. Okay, so my child is reading this book. I have a post-it note there because I'm so agitated. And quite honestly, when I heard her reading this part, this, like I said, atrocity, I was so triggered. I didn't get any trigger warnings, not one. It was just immediately triggered. I couldn't build up to it, nothing. So anyway, as LeVar Burton always used to say from reading Rainbow, some of you guys might remember him, and I always loved LeVar Burton. He was such a sweetie, even in his Star Trek. I almost said Star Wars. Oh, God, I would have been banned from Facebook had I said that. Even in his Star Trek days, he was okay. I wasn't a huge fan of the Star Trek stuff. I liked the Reading Rainbow a little bit better. But hey, you know, as I used to say in my day, everybody's got to shake their money maker at some point sometimes, you know. So anyway, let me get to the gist of this. So this is about George and Martha. They're 2 hippopotamuses, okay? And the problem is that George, out of the kindness and decency of his heart, goes and gets Martha a cuckoo clock because he thinks she'll like it. He likes it. He thinks she would like one. Well, Martha is absolutely annoyed by the noise the cuckoo clock makes. Okay, she can't make any exceptions, even though George is her best friend, which is very angering to me, but it's okay. So anyway, George goes over there to visit her after giving her the clock. George finds it in the bottom of a laundry hamper. As soon as I heard that in the story, I'm starting to get angry. But then Martha comes in, and when George confronts her, and can I get a moment of silence but applause for George for doing that? That is courageous. He's very brave. So when he confronts her, she says, and I quote, "It must have fallen in by mistake," she said. "I do hope it isn't broken." That's a whole can of malarkey. And I think everybody knows that. Now listen, if there's one thing that triggers me, it's absolute straight-faced lying. But you know what is the remedy for that? And the thing I love the most? Justice. Okay? So here's what I'm saying about this. And I told my child that was reading that book, she's 7 years old, but I've always been honest with my children, even when it comes to literature. Okay? I told her, Martha is playing George for an absolute fool. She is playing him for a fool, and anybody that believes any differently, anybody that buys that whole can of malarkey that she's trying to feed him is just as guilty. Just as guilty. I shoot straight with my kids. When I read them Skippy John Jones, I tell them the truth about that stuff. When we've read Martha and George before, this is a new story for me. I tell them the truth on that stuff. I'm not letting my kids read with blinders. That ain't going to happen. So, George and Martha, if you want your kids to read this story, I would read it first. Treat it like a movie. You're going to take them to the theater. Watch it first. Preview it. Make sure. Now, there's no foul language in there. But there are triggers abound. And there are no warnings. So, thank you. You're welcome. Have a great evening.